Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r slash petty revenge. In today's episode, got $40,000 for accidentally telling my secret to the salon gossip. Giving out my number to people you don't want to talk to? Okay. You should have listened. Gave my coworker some blunt ones. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Got $40,000 for accidentally telling my secret to the salon gossip. I worked at a chain salon in the US for minimum wage, plus tips. We got paid on a sliding scale, the more you added services the more your hourly pay. Then, for back to school, we started offering $10 haircuts. It's dumb to offer a big discount on back to school because that's when everyone needs a haircut, but whatever. Except, to advertise this sale we had to stand on a rickety step stool and hang a 10-foot long 3-foot wide banner off the roof of our store. The step stool alone made it a dangerous task, but on top of it the sidewalk was uneven. Our manager insisted we do twice a day, open and close, in case someone steals the banner. Because certainly, someone would want to steal a banner with our logo that says $10 haircuts. It was annoying, but I was looking forward to my next paycheck. I had a high service dollar per hour, which should have meant a bigger hourly pay and paycheck. Except it didn't. That $7 per haircut discount? It was coming out of our final service dollar calculations, and we ended up making significantly less than usual. I'd worked there for years and this was the smallest back-to-school paycheck I'd ever seen. I went in the next day and was pissed. That morning, a co-worker, who was a total brown-nose and gossip, and I were outside setting up the banner. It was my turn to stand on the rickety step stool, and I said I was glad this will be the last time I ever do this. I was fully prepared to make a joke about how I was going to fall and crack my head open, when the petty revenge idea came into my mind, and I swiftly executed it. When she asked why, I told her not to tell anyone, but I'd accepted a job at another salon with a set schedule, higher commission, and $5 more an hour. I said I'd planned on putting in my 2 weeks, but they needed me to start sooner, so I was going to work the weekend and not come back. After reiterating she could not tell anyone, especially not our boss, she agreed. I left early that day, and on my next shift my boss pulled me into her office. She said she'd heard a rumor that I was leaving to work at a different salon. I told her I had a much better offer elsewhere, but if she could match that I would love to stay. She had to put a call into our district leader about the raise, but said I could work with a set schedule starting the following week. I was consistently ranked number 2 in sales for our store and the district, so the DL approved the raise, and I stayed there another 5 years. Which means I got an additional $39,000 in pay for accidentally telling the salon gossip my secret. I also got 20% commission on $500 to $1,000 a week in product sales. Bonus revenge, I also started printing out my service sales slip from the day before at the beginning of every shift, so that when payroll readjusted the paychecks to include coupons I could pull up my record and dispute it. According to payroll, there was nothing they could do about it. A few months after I left, a different employee in another state filed a class action lawsuit, and I got a letter asking if I wanted to be a part of it. I accepted, and the lawyer loved receiving 5 years worth of documentation, emails from corporate and payroll, etc. They had to go back through all of my paychecks and compensate me for the difference. 19 cents an hour here and 30 cents an hour there added up a lot, and despite the fact that the settlement was split with a lot of people, I got $10,000 from that in addition to my adjusted pay, which was around half the settlement amount. Giving out my number to people you don't want to talk to? Okay. This story is from a while ago, but came up the other day in conversation, and I thought some of you might get some amusement out of it. It all started when I had to change cell carriers a long time ago, and was not able to take my phone account was in my mom's name. She passed away, and couldn't exactly authorize it. Right from the beginning I kept getting calls for Freddie, not real name. Calls from telemarketers, calls from collection agencies, calls from frigging Walgreens telling me that Freddie's prescriptions were ready. Every time, I politely informed them that this was no longer his number, please update your information. Even had a couple collections agencies accuse me of being Freddy and started threatening me, at which point being polite went right out the window. This went on for years, but gradually the calls slowed down, and eventually stopped. Fast forward a year or two, and the tone of the calls changed. At first it was just the one isolated call out of nowhere, a really cheerful, if confused, sounding girl asking to speak with Freddy. I politely informed her that this was no longer his number. She sounded surprised and a little angry, but just hung up with an okay, thanks. As the months went on, the calls started to come more frequently. And after one call where I had a very awkward conversation with someone who didn't believe that I wasn't Freddy, the tumblers clicked into place. She made a reference to last night. Oh shit. What a bastard. Giving my phone hashtag to his one-night stands? This had to stop, and I felt like some petty revenge was in order. Remember when I said I kept getting calls from the pharmacy telling me prescriptions were ready for pickup? I had a plan. The next call I received, looking for Freddy, I had a response all set. I told the girl, in very clear terms, that this was no longer his hashtag, and if she ever saw him again that she needed to tell him to update his pharmacy info, because I kept getting reminders that his Valtrex prescription was ready, and it was getting really annoying. For those who don't recognize it, Valtrex is a medication used for the treatment of genital herpes. Well, I will say, being older and a little more mature, I do feel bad for winding that random stranger up and aiming them back at Freddy, but that was the only way I can think of to fight back. Apparently, she found him and passed along my message, because a few weeks later I got a string of calls that was just some weirdo breathing into the phone really heavy. But no more calls looking for Freddy. You should have listened. In May last year I started Couch to 5K. I told my friend I was doing it. My friend was not interested and kept changing the topic when I talked about. Not a problem, not everyone likes exercise, I don't. I told him when I completed it, but it was pretty much a well done, and then on to talking about something else. 6 months later the same mate said he was doing Couch to 5K, and that I should really get out the house and do some exercise like him. Me sitting around all day is not good for my health, and I should copy him. At this point I had been running 5K every other day for 6 months. It appeared he had forgotten I had already done it. So I thought I'll have some fun. Whenever he brought up the topic of me not exercising as much as him, I would say yeah, I used to commute before COVID by bike. I don't do that anymore, and that I probably should do something. I waited until he finished Couch to 5K. He finished Couch to 5K and shared his time on Strava, logging 5K in 32 minutes. This time when he said I should really go get fit like him, I said okay, I will give it a go. The same day I went out and ran 5K in 24 minutes 36 seconds and posted that on Strava. He doesn't talk about his running anymore. Gave my coworker some blunt ones. Here's a nice little work-related petty revenge. As a note, I'm on mobile, but I still know how to make paragraphs, and I still know how to do grammar and syntax and all of that other stuff, because it's not based upon what piece of technology I'm using when I wrote it. English is my first language, so I'll probably do okay. I work construction, and I got put on a big project out of town. I was on a crew, and I was the new guy. Possibly even FNG. For some reason these guys picked on me, but it really wasn't skill related. So we're making the forms for the bottom of a trench or a footing, I can't remember exactly, and there were 3 of us on my little crew. I was cutting the stakes, the JM was pounding them into the crush, because he's a big heavy guy, and we had another kid doing something that I can't really remember. I was an apprentice at the time equal to the kid. So the JM or journeyman starts taking the piss out of me, so what did I do? I was using 2x4s and cutting them into a point for the stakes, so I started gradually making it more blunt. My journeyman was out of shape and it was summertime, and although at night, it was still warm. So gradually over the hour, the staking that I was cutting went from sharp and easy to pound into the crushed gravel to barely more than a 2x4 with a bit of an angle. He did notice that things were getting harder to pound in, and he'd make some comments, and I would dial it back until he didn't complain, and then start back making them gradually more and more blunt. He also had the other kid pounding the steaks, but I never heard from him, and don't know if he noticed. In the end, we went to lunch. He was dripping sweat and complaining to the rest of the crew how hard it was to pound steaks, and how I wasn't good at cutting them properly. I think about half of the crew figured it out, and the other half were as dense as he was. Go F*** yourself D. Roy.